My father used to make this recipe. He was so proud of baking. He had worked with his father. You bake bread for someone, you're nourishing people. You're a doctor. My father used to say he was nourishing and feeding the people around him. Bread is the first food. It's the staff of life. Baking is a lovely occupation, way of making a living. It's very fulfilling, very wholesome, because it's only as good as the passion you put into it when you're making it. So when I start making the sourdough, we still make it in the same way. We use what they call a T65 flour, and I need 850 grams of that. Okay, I have 25 grams of salt here, and I have 9 grams of sugar. I need 600 grams of sourdough. This is sourdough. It's a wild yeast. And I need 300 mils of water. Now I have everything in there, and I just mix it. The dough has to be right, but this is just the first kneading. You have to leave it sit then for 12 hours to rise. It just comes on its own. And then we leave it sit here in front of the oven, and I cover it with a sacking. With a sourdough, you won't be able to do it because it has to sit then for another 12 hours before you can bake it. You know, it's nice to be the same family doing the same thing in the same place for 130 years. My grandfather, John Barron, who's in that portrait up there on the wall, he started the bakery in 1887, having returned from New York. His plan was he was a trained baker. He trained out in Turnina with O'Keeffe's Bakery. In those days, to train as a baker, you had to pay, and money was not very plentiful. So he learned his trade there, but he didn't want to continue it, and he got married to Nora Collender. The plan was that he'd go to New York and work, and this is about 1885. And he went to New York, and when he left, she was expecting her first child, and it was the eldest of 12. When she had the baby, she lost the heart to go to America. So sadly, he came back to his wife and his baby, and he started the bakery here. This premises was owned by her family, the Collender family. They had a lot of property in Cappoquin, and her father gave them this, and they started a bakery here then, and it's still going today. And it means that, you know, it's a very sustainable business, because you've had 2 world wars in that time, and we've had a civil war, and we've had lots of recessions, and barons are still making a living on the side of the street in Cappoquin. We had a lovely childhood. Very happy childhood, and it does bring back lovely memories, and the smell. And when I'd wake up in the morning, you'd hear the hum of the oven, my father baking, and you came down always to the waft and smell of beautiful fresh bread.
In the early 80s, there was what you call a price war with bread. You had a breakthrough in bread making. Bakers got together and put up big factory bakers. They made processed bread, and bread that was baked in under 20 minutes. As a result of that, they used bread as an object to bring people into supermarkets, bread being half the price. Now it was a different product. And back in the early 80s, people weren't able to differentiate between real bread and processed bread. It affected an awful lot of small bakeries. Small bakeries, because the purchasing power of bread went into the supermarket, and they weren't able to survive. So small family businesses like ours all closed because of a whole change in culture about bread. And it was brought on by people who were into making money as opposed to making bread. Whereas I come from a tradition of people who were making quality bread to nourish people. And it was about the quality of the bread. But then it became an object to produce something at a very low cost. And if you buy something at a low cost, somebody is paying the price. So the product was paying the price there because people weren't nourished as well, and people have grown intolerant to wheat, which of course has come through bread not being given the proper time to break down the enzymes in the flour so that it's made more digestible for people. So it was like we had this speed thing, you know, it's organic as opposed to just rush things up, and they're losing all the flavour, all the nourishment to keep people healthy, which is the most important thing in our lives. But it's the greed. If you buy this and then you want more and more and more. That's what destroys people.
We just love our business, and it has been very good to us, and we're not there to bleed it just for us. Greed is a terrible thing. The motto always with the Barron family was small is beautiful. My father used to say quality, not quantity. I find that I'm just content with life, and I don't have to have the Mercedes or the helicopter. Just want to be happy and eat healthily, and no money can buy that.